Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris, BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is Miesha Johnston. And Miesha, you're just incredible tonight. I just want to thank you again for joining us. I know that you're a busy woman, but you certainly have had a lot of impact in this area. And also, once again, give everybody a rundown as far as how they can access your radio show and tune into whatever they need to with your groups and et cetera and all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, my radio show is from 12 to 2 Pacific Standard Time on KCOR Radio. It is Starseed Awakening, and, they can just go to KCORradio.com and find it that way. There's also a live number, but, they could just get it from there. Also, my experiencer groups, I have a couple in my home. And then I also co-facilitate a UFO group here in Las Vegas where we bring in speakers and that type of thing. And then I have my groups on the internet. So I believe you actually read it, and it was perfectly earlier.
Okay,
the
great.
Way you read
Okay,
it.
so everybody has the rundown.
So they have the rundown, right? So all they have to do is listen to the first of it because you read all about that. But those groups are very, very important and dear to me because that's people who are coming from all over the world, and I do mean all over the world, to share their experiences. The Sunday group is a mixed group. It is a group for people who, for the first part of it is for ET experiencers, people talking about that. Then the second part of it is for the MK Ultra and all of the DID, the super space program, all of the things that people can talk about on that second part of it. Now, it's interesting, though. It sometimes changes, and sometimes it ends up that the people who come in the first are the MK Ultra, and then the people come in there. So I just let things just roll like they are naturally, and it works out perfect. And then, of course, every Thursday I do have a group specifically for people who are MK Ultra, MILAB, super soldier, target individuals, ritual abuse, all of that. And they can come and share. And these are all on Zoom, and they're private. I do pay for a business type system so that it's as private as you can get, let's say, on the internet, because as we know, the internet is controlled and everything about it is watched. But still, it is we feel private. And then, of course, I have one group that's on Saturday after my radio show at 3 to 6, and that's for people who are getting downloads, who are speaking galactic language or channeling or writing automatic writing or music's coming through or art. There's so many different ways that people are being channeled this wonderful high galactic energy. And I myself speak quite a few galactic languages and do translate them. I do sessions with people for them to find their galactic family of origin and sometimes speak with their galactic families or get messages. And of course, I also do hypnotherapy, and I specialize in trauma release therapy so that for people who are having trauma, whether it's in their ET experiences or abductions or MILAB, or it's the MK Ultra, the mind control, that they can go into those parts of those experiences. And because you do really have to remember these things in order to bring them out, clear them, and take the fear out of it, because the fear is false evidence appearing real. So they've put, especially for targeted people, MK Ultra people, I should say, they've put these fear triggers into people so that they won't go any further, that they're afraid. But fear is what they use as the tool against people. And if you fight that, you can get through these things and you can get so much. And I've done that, and I've had fortunate to have wonderful therapists and hypnotherapists that have helped me in the past. So I think that kind of covers everything. And of course, I told about my book and Transcending Realities. We're doing taping on my TV show where we have some ladies do interview, and then we have interview a guest and then kind of talk about our own experience. I'm going to be speaking at the UFO Con 2000. That's in San Francisco at the Holiday Inn, and I'm doing an intensive workshop as well as I'm part of the Transcending Realities panel that's going to be.
And when's the date? When's that going to
That
be?
is March 24th, 25th, and 26th at the
Okay.
Holiday Inn in San Francisco.
Excellent. So
And
that's right around the
then
corner.
it is. And then a little further down the road, I have July 28th and 30th. I'll be at the UFO Watchtower Presents a Cosmic Highway Conference. With the UFO Con one, they can go to caufocon.com. And with the Watchtower, they can go to UFOWatchtowerEvents.com. And that's a really cool one. That is going to be a camp out. And my partner and I also, I forgot about the one other thing we do. I have one other thing I do. Can you believe it? I don't
I
know
like it.
why
I
I
know
do.
what this one is. Go ahead.
But it's Vector 5 Tours. And together with my training as a CE5 from Stephen Greer, what I learned with him, we do vector in the ships through a meditation, and we, bring in the vector in the energy of the ETs and they go up into the space and ask them to come back. And then we have night vision goggles for people to see the ships when they come back in. So
Awesome.
it's going to be great. That's going to be at the Watchtower.
Well, you know what you need to do, Miesha, is
Cosmic
have them
Highway.
vector those ships in, but have them neutralize these black satellites that are destroying everybody's brainwaves. That's what we need to do.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah,
I think
sorry,
everybody
Black Ops,
should.
but you guys need to stand the hell down. We're sick of you. Sorry. Done. Go ahead. I'm just tired of it.
And I do believe that if everybody asked their galactic connections, their guides, their beings that they're in connection with for help, I think, they'd probably even say, okay, well, the masses have spoken. Yeah, it's time to take out those black satellites.
I think it's coming, and honestly, we are multidimensional beings. We've talked about this before, how we exist simultaneously in multidimensional space. Whether people acknowledge it or not, it doesn't matter. We still do. So we're already there. We're here, and we're already there. We're already connected to these celestial species, off-world species, whatever you want to call them. They're our galactic family. They're our celestial family. So we have that extension. We have that right. And when we're being violated, that's against universal law. That's against the code of multiversal universal law. I mean, bottom line is these people are violating. They know they are. They know they're violating. They don't care because they figure there's no accountability. And they say, well, what's the worst thing that can happen to me? How about extinction? Does that feel good to you guys? Because that's what's going to happen to these SOBs that are doing these kinds of war crimes. They don't get to relive this over again. They don't get a get out of jail free card. They like to run that around. No, thank you. You're not getting out of jail. And I'm telling you, this may sound harsh, Miesha. I'm telling you, there's always accountability for the type of things that people are doing here. And this is what it is about, taking responsibility for your actions, It's unbelievable. And the entanglement that happens, because when they touch one person that way or assault them one way, then all of a sudden it's this maelstrom. It's a chain reaction of this crazy wave of psychotronics, mind control. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've realized that in the past there have been plants and targets and people that show up out of the blue that aren't supposed to be there, that are usually part of the spin-off agency or somebody who's been programmed by the energy of the agency, and also the triggers that happen. I mean, we were at the Mind Control Super Soldier Summit. We saw people getting triggered in the audience.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's true. And yes, they do. They infiltrate these UFO conventions, these UFO groups. They infiltrate. I've had them infiltrate into my group at my home countless times. I can't tell you how many times. I've had them come into my group thinking, oh, well, I thought I vetted this person perfectly, and then I'll be darned if I didn't get duped myself, So,
well, I weed them out pretty good for you. I mean, I can, that, but I weed them out for me too, because I get some of those creepy crawlies coming in. When I was first pulled into the project, the program, I had all sorts of weirdos coming out of the woodwork. So, I was making a list and checking it twice too. It's funny. It's not funny, but anyways. But there are some questions in the chat now. It's your option if you want to answer them or not. One, Olive, thank you for being patient over there. This is he's asking, do you think that dreams are timelines?
Oh, I do. I definitely believe that a lot of our dreams because we live life simultaneously. So we're living simultaneous timelines. And I know so many times that I am almost paralleling a lifetime over in my dream time that is this lifetime, but it's just slightly different. It's slightly different. Maybe it's a little advanced, or maybe it's a little behind. In like, for instance, it's really interesting. In one of my timelines, I am a part of a UFO industry, let's call it, and I am really, I mean, the women are revered in this one. They, which we know that's not so, and that what the women have to share is very important, and it's like basically there's this kind of a round table of all the who's who in the UFO industry, and the speakers and such as that, and and women are they're looked up to. So
Hmm. Well, it's the goddess energy too. I mean, in
the
the old
goddess
days,
energy,
women were looked
yeah.
up to. But I have to tell you, where are the role models? I think you and I are very good role models, but I can't say many of the Hollywood entertainers are, right? So,
No, no, I
yeah,
can't say that at all.
yeah.
It kind of loses its pizzazz for me when I mean, and I still like to watch. Uh, I watch DVR shows that are pertaining to sci-fi things because there's so much soft disclosure in these shows, so
Yep.
much.
They
So
steal information. That's why. This is why I will tell
sure.
all of you out there who are listening, if you're writers or authors or musicians, don't send them your stuff because they just copy it, change the title, and then they start and run with it and produce it themselves. There are a lot of thieves out there. Be careful what you put on the internet. Always make sure you copyright everything you do. I know we have to do that now,
hmm That's
unfortunately.
that's very true. That's very true. That's one of the reasons why I got my book out because, I haven't talked about. I haven't. This is my first really getting it out there. I did have a little bit of the information on my website, and I said, um, I need a record of this. I need a record of this. So
Yep,
this
that's
is what I
exactly.
keep
You're
doing
the
it.
sacred witness to your own life, and that's
Exactly.
the whole idea. That's why I wrote my book too, the Eye of the Remote series, because I had to document what had happened. I saw Mossbach lying out the wazoo, and these guys could have come clean. They didn't want to. They just didn't
hmm
want to, and I guess that's what makes me angry. I wish people would come clean. I don't know what it takes for people to get it right. Do you? Does somebody have to like threaten them before or they have to be waterboarded? I mean, what is it? What do they need before
What
they
do
tell the
they need?
truth?
Yeah, what do they need before they have any kind of consciousness,
I don't
a
think they have a
conscience, a
conscience. Yeah.
conscience? I don't think they have a conscience. They can't really have a conscience
Yeah.
and do what they did. Like for instance, the Rush did to you, and now what they're getting. It's just,
Oh yeah. Now they're getting an award of the year, of Rock and Roll Hall
uh,
of Fame. Wow.
uh,
Does anybody really know what's going on behind the scenes with that band? Why don't you talk to me?
and
That's
you
the
should,
saddest part of all. I have
yeah.
documentation on them, and I know what the creepy crawly dark side is of that band, and where they've been, and what they've been doing with covert harassment programming, psychotronic warfare, artificial telepathy, and a whole ball of wax that nobody wants to know about.
And I think that Solaris, that if this since this happened to you, I'd say they're not the only band out there. They're not the only artist, or they're
No.
not the only actor out there that are doing this. I'm sure that this is happening. It's rampant. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Well, out in
And
California, they're all part of the mind control and
hmm
entrainment programming and pedophilia and everything else. So, and I also know this is a rich man's toy, which means if they can sell it on the black market, but if they have friends who have clearances in military or special ops or anything like that, they can they can get this technology. They can have the poor man's version or they can have the rich man's version. The stuff that's a little more advanced. And that's
right,
much what they were using. But yeah, there's always I always tell people to follow the paper trails of people. When I give you names of people, you have to pretend they're not famous. You have to look behind that, and you have to look at their agencies, and you have to look at what
hmm
they've been doing and what contracts they've signed. Like with Mosbach, he's contracted with the Middle East military. He used to be contracted with high-profile candidates for presidents.
hmm
We're talking access to Secret Service, beyond Secret Service, Sci-Spy. Okay, artificial telepathy, covert surveillance, which is really covert, not bugging phones, not bugging your computers, but bugging the target. How about that, everybody? Isn't that special? Okay,
hmm
go ahead, Miesha.
hmm
I get angry when I talk about this. Sorry.
and you have every right to be.
I still have
Um,
that righteous anger in me. So that's why I have
yes,
to have
and
you
that
back. Go ahead.
you have every right. And I hope I answered her question.
Yeah.
That I do definitely think that some of our experiences, I believe, are not our dream time is remembering some of our experiences. I think it's a way and a method that our psyche can get through things and give us some of the information. But a lot of them is timelines, and it's really important. What happens in those timelines can really affect this timeline, I
Right.
truly think, and vice
Well,
versa.
it can, but they also have spin-off realities, which mean they don't really ascend. But I was going to ask you,
True.
when you were first being hit with these projects, did you dream at all? I know you said you were involved with a dream project, whatever they were doing to assess you. But did you start to dream? Do you have normal dreams now?
Well, actually, that wasn't a dream project. What that was driving program.
Okay.
And if the driving program, they put you to sleep, and then they program you while you're asleep. And that's what a
Oh,
driving,
that's bad
and
news.
they
Yeah.
put you to sleep for days and weeks, weeks and things like that.
Hmm.
And program, electric shock program, electric shock
Wow.
program.
Not good, Misha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dreams, I don't remember dreams
Okay.
when I don't remember dreams.
Do you hear any communication telepathically when you
I mean,
sleep?
I dream now, but I
Mhm.
don't remember dreams back in those days.
I never. I used.
Basically I don't
Yeah.
remember my life, so how am I going to remember my
It's funny
dreams?
because I never had any real dream. I used to do a lot of astral projection when I was younger, but I can tell you after I was pulled into the artificial telepathy program, it was just like the Borg. All I had was virtual space and
Yeah.
communication nonstop. And that is not healthy.
Well,
I'm just telling everybody.
that's exactly right. Uh, Up until this last few years is when I started dreaming. Before I wasn't dreaming. When
Mhm.
I really started getting in touch and realizing what had happened and getting more and more my understanding, because people will say, well, I used to have a dream these years ago and this and this and this. And I'm going, I can't remember that. I don't think so. No, I think it's been in the last 10 years probably that I've had started having dreams.
Wow, interesting. And
Yeah.
I know I always tell people to keep dream logs. I used to keep dream logs before I
Yep.
was hit with the program, and I'd write things down, but I'd always be very prophetic. And it wasn't very often I'd have a dream. I'd have more like a prophetic vision and knowing, and then
Uh,
I'd write it down, and it would always transpire within a year. So
oh,
that's
yeah.
the kind of stuff I was always tuning into, just that kind of a timeline where I could
And that's
access.
some of the things they wanted from you for sure.
Probably. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
they just completely hijacked and extracted, and of course took templates to sell or basically overlay onto another target.
Mhm.
So, like I said, I don't like the idea of being we were going to discuss clones. I guess we can get into that later. But we were going.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a joke. You can clone personalities. You can clone templates onto people. Overlay the personality onto another target. Mass entrainment programming. They can collect. That's where we get the Hive Collective, where they can take that template from one clone, from say one host, and then basically interconnect it onto the rest. So then you have a Hive Collective that basically operates on the same level. That's almost like a more than sci-fi, but it's also super soldier technology too, because you have a
Mhm.
whole group moving on the same wavelength.
Right, right. And I want to just answer the young man, Brandon.
Yes, yes. Okay, go
Okay,
ahead,
I
and
guess
we'll
it's a
ask the
young
question
man,
first. Okay.
and then we'll answer that question. Then we'll go on to the cloning. Um, his question is, what is the Pindar? Well, it's interesting that you should ask this because this is one of those taboo subjects that I never got into. I never researched. I never did any of those because when I went to things like Pindar and the other occult kinds of words and terminology like that, I immediately was triggered. So I stayed completely away from them. But now I can say that I feel very healthy that I can actually say that a Pindar, in my opinion, is part of that black occult, whether they're reptilian or what type of beings they are. I get the feeling that that's part of it. They're the black sorcerers. I think the Pindars also. Um, it goes all the way back to sacrifices and stuff to the Pindar and things like that. So that's really about all I know about the Pindar.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
back to the clone. So a clone is it's so interesting because I know so many people that are starting to realize that hey, maybe there's a clone out there because some of your dreams, pay attention to some of your dreams, and I kind of think that our are clones because of this heterodyning and the connection and all of that the clones, they don't know they're clones, first of all, and a person doesn't even know if they're a clone. and they're the original or not, because they could be a clone themselves. I know some other people that I've come across in my life that feel that and now realize that they are clones, but that they never realize it. Maybe their spouse pointed it out to them. And then other people who are clones that have memories of things that they aren't experiencing. And I believe that if those clones are out there, maybe in space and being fighting wars, and maybe they're in the secret space program, the clones are, maybe they don't have to put the physical person in those, taking them up to the secret space programs and the different planets that they're on, but their clone is there, and so they're remembering it,
Right.
they're
Well, it's the same
experiencing it.
thing. It works the same way as soul extensions and soul dissensions on an esoteric level. On a multidimensional scale, we were touching on the multidimensional aspects of who we are as multidimensional beings. And we exist simultaneously in space beyond the illusion of space and time, which means other star systems and universes. I know this sounds really out there, everybody, but it's really the truth in mystery school teachings. So when you start accessing your DNA and activating the frequencies, you start to get downloads, and the downloads come through the soul extensions, right? Well, at least for me, they have in the past. And when you have a soul dissension connect in, which is part of an aspect of your higher self, but also an aspect of you in space beyond the word. You bring
Right.
in that personality. It's not having an alternate personality disorder. It's actually bringing in a data stream of who you are as a multiversal being or a multidimensional being. That's a different animal. What they're doing is hijacking the multidimensional design work, creating a clone template, and using that template for hijacking in navigating in their black science department. These guys are SOBs, Miesha. So now,
They are.
and you're right about being out there insofar as if people get a dream and it's connected to something that perhaps maybe the clone is experiencing, yeah, it would be a bleed-through effect. What I call a parallel bleed-through effect is when you're actually receiving a data stream of something that you know is connected to you in some way, but literally is coming from something else.
Right.
But yeah, there's so much of this going on. You know what's interesting? It's a big maelstrom, because the more I look into this, the more I see that they've created a mess. It's like these guys got in the kitchen and made a disaster, okay? Too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but when I see this, it's like I just see this room of a mess of stuff everywhere, astral debris everywhere, thought forms displaced, like energies displaced, like radio waves are fractured everywhere. This is what kind of mess these people make. If you look at it on that scale, it's chaos.
It is chaos. I was going to say a lot of what you see out there in the astral is that total chaos, total chaos.
It is, and you never want to navigate there. That's why I always say raise your vibration to light body level, because lower astral planes are junkyards.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And somebody today told me a wonderful thing, and I really, part of I think the lucid dreaming, but it was great that if you wake up and you've had like a really doozy of a dream that you were in an experience that you didn't care for, you didn't like how it was turning out, put yourself in kind of a little sleep trance, go back into that dream and change it.
Absolutely.
But I always thought in order to do that, you'd have to be totally back into the lucid part of your dream. Have to be back into the delta waves or something. But you don't. She says you can do it, and I really agree, because I've done it many times, but I didn't realize I was doing it. And I guess that's another part of the lucid dream. So if you can affect and change it, how powerful are we? Okay.
Exactly.
How powerful are we? And if we just could realize how powerful we are, if we can go out there in the astral and change something.
Change the ending for sure. And that's another thing that comes to mind is when you're out there, if you try to remember, if you really practice meditation, you can go into that lucid space and you will be dreaming, but you'll know you're dreaming, and you can change it while you're there. You can actually flip everything around, say, I don't like this, delete it. Treat it like a program. If it doesn't work for you, get rid of it.
Delete it.
Point.
That's one of my favorite ones. Delete that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and this is a term that I used back when I had an experience, and it was, is it Memorex? Is it real or
Live
it's
Memorex?
Memorex?
They said that with me in 2004, by the way. That's a code word they use.
No.
Yes, it is. They said if it's live or Memorex.
It's
Memorex is the AI. Live is live handler real time.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. Now that makes a whole lot of sense. Okay. Remember when I was telling you I had this reptilian came in and looked in my eyes and gave me this horrible imagery and what they were doing to my family. Right at the moment that it all didn't seem right, I said, "Is this is this real or is this Memorex?" And you say that's part of their program. I never could figure out why I said that. And other than I thought, well, am I real? Am I? Did I realize that it isn't real?
Well, see, there's
But yet
something
it
in you that,
sure
yeah.
seemed real.
Well, that could
It's
have been psychotronics will do that to you also. They can create an overlay. A lot of the time when they do those transmissions of signals when they interconnect a target, they're literally targeting areas of the brain where they're creating almost a hallucination. I'm not
right,
saying everybody who's
right.
involved with extraterrestrials is hallucinating. I'm just saying that this technology is capable of creating an awful lot of interesting scenarios that will make you look like you're actually having an extraterrestrial experience or something else, and you're not going anywhere. It's like the movie, what was the one I was trying to remember? Total Recall, where they have
Oh yeah,
it's that kind of a
right.
thing.
It
So
is
it's a
that.
simulation, and the more I look at it, I talked to you a little bit about the living glass, not looking glass, living glass,
Uh huh.
and that's more about an intelligent design work that literally morphs as you go into it. In other words, it's like a hologram. So you walk in there, and everything starts to change through consciousness.
Huh.
I believe they do have access to things like that, and they're working with it. That's probably more down in their other down under, so to speak. But
Yes.
literally, that's the technology. It's literally psychotronics in motion, and that's interesting because when that was a long time ago, but they've been working on this stuff forever. And if anybody really dives into the black sciences, they're more than 100 years advanced. I know people say, oh, it's 50
Yes.
years, it's 30 years.
Mm-mm-mm.
It's way. Let's put it
It's.
this way, folks. They have reverse engineered technology based on extraterrestrial off-world species. Tell me about it. How old
Mm-hmm.
is that?
Mm-hmm.
We can't even
Mm-hmm.
put a limit on the age in the illusion of. So
That's
go
right.
ahead, though. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to
Oh,
make
yeah, no, you didn't interrupt me at all. No, I love it. I love being on your show and I have you on my show because we just have a really good uh, communication back and forth, and I love it.
I do
I
too. You and I've always meshed when we first met.
uh-huh.
Even we always.
Yeah.
I think it's because we have a camaraderie to some degree because we all have been through very weird projects and things that are just horrific, but we've gotten through it on because I believe we're star people and we're so high vibratory insofar as our vibrational frequency. We still shine. Even through the
Hmm.
dark tide, we still shine and we still keep going. And I think that's why we see each other. And this goes for anybody out there. I mean, when you're star people, you just recognize each other's spirits.
You do.
So
Yep, you do. And yeah, in fact, people should notice that if they recognize somebody. And they go, well, how could I know this person? They live in so and so, and how could that be? You recognize their spirits, and we've interacted with them many times. We're replaying another scenario again, just like Atlantis.
yep,
This is what was happening to Atlantis, and it's happening again.
yep, sure is.
This time, I want it to be a different change. I want it to be a different result
Well,
than
this time
last.
they're getting their what's handed to them. This time, we are going home, and home is
Yeah,
off planet.
soft planet.
We're
Yes.
not getting trapped into the false matrix anymore. That's being
No.
shattered, and we're here. And it's not just us; there's other beings who do it too. We're breaking the false paradigm. We're shattering that whole thing, so now we can keep ascending and going home. And that's the beauty of it. But the mind control was an entrapment program. And that's the whole idea behind it, is to keep people in a stasis of mind control and being slept and being under a spell of in certain words in particular that keep people pulled away to the full light universe, what I call the full light truth. And it's no good. So
So they can have them as slaves because
yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
this
And
is.
slave
It's a slave planet.
feed. Also, they're feeding off of the prana, the life force, the light body, the
Oh
rapaf.
my,
They
yes.
feed off of that. I mean,
Hmm.
it's unbelievable. They're parasites. These people are parasites, and all they had to do was generate light from their own consciousness, raise your vibration, step up instead of stepping down and trying to bring everybody into the sewer with you. But that's the problem, Miesha. And you're seeing a lot of what I call sleeper cells being activated across the board with hostility and people wanting to agitate each other and get that friction going to a point where
Uh-huh.
people can't raise their vibration. So, but another thing you touched on, which I think is important, is also, and you didn't really word it, but the eyes are the windows to the soul, as they say.
Uh-huh.
That's very true. When you look at people's eyes, you can see a lot of depth, a lot of consciousness, a lot of spirit. And you'll notice that a lot of people have been programmed to look dead in their eyes. Not us, but I'm saying a lot of
Yes.
people who have given up, their eyes are, there's nobody there. You look at
Nobody
these
there.
high profile people who are, and I won't mention their names, but the mainstream media and also some of these imbeciles that were in the previous administration, not the new Trump administration, they
Uh-huh.
had no life in their eyes. They were dead. They're
Uh-huh.
entities. They're empty vessels with entity control, and you see it. So once again, look into the eyes of spirit and understand who you are as a what we call a multidimensional being. The first thing I said when they pulled me to that program is I looked into the mirror and I said, I want to see my eyes
Uh-huh.
because I knew they were hijacking me. You know, and your eyes can shapeshift and change, by the way. But depending on your handlers, programmers, controllers, and operators, you'd be surprised on how you can shapeshift through the technology. That's another thing.
It is true. It is true. Um, I guess it is a part of the technology that does that,
Hmm.
that
Well, it's a
shapeshifting
frequency.
because,
Frequency changes. When you're modulating frequencies, you can modulate the waves or the atoms, the cellular structure, molecular structure. You can change things in the person's body. This is why I've always taken pictures of myself. Not that I'm vain, but since 2004, I used to take pictures to see how I was morphing.
hmm
I wanted to see what was going on with me. It wasn't that I was aging or something. It was that I was looking to see who's there. What is this? And it might sound crazy, and it's not possession, folks. This is what I mean by these programs are wild. But I'm sure you can relate to that to some degree, Miesha, because you've had things that have surfaced, right?
yes. Um, Offhand, let me think here. Well, hmm, I'm kind of at a blank right now.
That's okay. I was going to ask you one question. When you
Okay.
when you integrated your altars, and I might have asked you this before when you've been on my show, but I really need clarity. Do you think it's wise to integrate the altars? Wouldn't you think it's best to just destroy them? Because aren't the altars created by the handler, and we don't want the government handler emanating or still working through you?
Well, in my opinion, the fact that you can see them and know that they're there and integrate them and realize that, kind of love them. Maybe it's love them away. Maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, because there was one particular one, which is the name of my ex-husband, that was a altar, and that particular one, when it integrated, it cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and asked for forgiveness and begged for forgiveness and begged for forgiveness, and it just, so I think integrating for me was a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that they can access hand my hand. Once you know that, it's just like I keep saying, this the truth will set you free. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can uh, get those altars, if you can find out who they are, when they started, get to know their MO and understand why they were there. It's I feel that integrating is the best. Now, maybe they do disappear too,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them have never come back.
Mm-hmm.
Never come back. So maybe it did disappear. Maybe integrating them is making them disappear. I don't
Possible. The
know.
dominant one would stay, in my opinion.
Right. And the dominant one, if you're strong enough, should be your front
You're right.
personality.
It should be your higher
And
self, oversoul,
yes, and your
superconscious
higher
anchored
self,
in. And that's the
exactly.
whole idea. When they create these pseudo personalities, that doesn't mean anything because it's who you are as a higher self, oversoul, superconscious, your multidimensional design work. And that's why I always push spirituality, because once you have clarity on that level, once you go to that level of higher self and really understand what you are, who you are, then you're able to see that through that particular pillar of light, and then you can disperse the other stuff. That's just me, but that's the way
Well,
I
no,
see it.
that makes sense. And that's where I have done my work is through my spiritual connection with my higher self and my connection with um, God source and all of that. So I think truly that integration is in great shun.
Hmm.
I'm just putting that word together in, because I've noticed a lot of the words they've used, like hypnosis was a no-no for any people who were MK Ultra. A lot of people for MK Ultra, that's a no-no, because that's part of the programming is never be hypnotized, because they knew that you could be set free by being
Hmm.
hypnotized. So the different things that we're afraid of, I find out, are actually working to help us more.
Hmm.
So, but those are all programs, triggers that keep people in the dark.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, almost like a firewall to some degree.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I like the work you're doing. And you're the very few people I trust. I told you this before that I trust doing any type of regression, but you're probably the number one, in my opinion, anyway.
Well,
So,
thank you. I'm
yeah,
honored.
that's for real because I just don't trust people. Period. I've learned not to trust people over the years, but I'm very, I've referred my clients to you who want regressions done. So, I am very clear that you're very trustworthy and you know what you're doing. So,
Well, thank you. I wish there was a perfect way to do it over the internet, but to me, there's not, especially when you're dealing with something this important. I really, truly still feel that things like this should be done in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so
Otherwise, yeah.
I would say if somebody's like, well, I'm not going to say that. Well, yes, I am. If somebody says, okay, we can regress you, and you're going to be dealing with some things like this, well, if you better think again, or at least have somebody there you trust that can help you, that really has some kind of knowledge about how to help somebody who goes into trauma,
Hmm.
because that's why I don't do it on the internet.
Right. They can
Because
go into healing crisis. Even regular energetic work can put
absolutely.
people in a healing crisis, just regular Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people have to be very, very careful. And plus, and you know this, that literally when you're working with people on that level, something could surface where it could be a personality coming up, and it may not be very kind. So there
No.
might be something coming through that might be something that was, a program created by them that could be harmful. So, yeah.
Could be harmful, could be a suicide program. So what are you going to do if you have somebody that you're doing a regression and you're 500 miles away, and that person goes into hits one of those triggers for
Mhm.
suicide? Oh no. No,
Right.
no, no, you can't do it. And
Yeah.
that's why I won't do it. And I've had a lot of people ask me to, and I'm sorry.
Good
I,
for you.
I won't do it.
No, I agree with you on that one. And the saddest part of all is that these programs run very discreetly in the body, in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see movies or hear music, if they've been programmed, that can be a trigger. That could
Oh,
do something to
yeah.
trigger them, activate a personality or activate a program. I call it a program. That's how I deal with things. I just call them programs. And that's not healthy. I mean, this is what I mean. I don't know how many people are programmed, Miesha. I look back and I think to myself, I have no idea how many people are on this planet that have been programmed that to that level of being almost who knows what, when they get activated. So it's very concerning. We have people that are normally programmed just entrainment and social engineering. That's one program, but this is more in depth.
It is. It is. This, and I think there's so many people that are walking around with some kind of a program.
Hmm.
You know,
I think so too. You could see it also. You could see the triggering and the programming activating in the alternative, not the alternative, the far left. They're going berserk. I mean, they're just going weird, man.
they
They're
are
acting
going
abnormal.
weird.
So that's definitely a program activation. That's huge. That's mind control and social engineering in motion right there.
Oh yeah, they have so many sleepers now that they woke up to do all of this craziness and all these riots and all this crap that they're doing now. To just, it's part of keeping everything in turmoil. Not
Right.
only
Lowers the vibration.
lowers the vibration, but it all, and they love that.
Oh, they
They
feed
love
off of it.
that. That
Yeah.
they feed off that turmoil, especially the reptilian species. That some of them are highly in charge, and I'm not saying all reptilians. I'm just saying some of them. They feed off of it. And during my experiences, I saw this personally. I saw how they fed off people's pain, death, and agony.
Hmm.
So they love that. So, uh, I don't think for a minute that all those people that are, I couldn't believe all the people that just act like idiots out there,
Hmm.
and it's just, you're just feeding into the whole matrix and the whole archonic energy,
It's
and
archonic for sure. Yeah, I
uh,
see it like that. We've touched on this. I talked about Robert Stanley because I really like Robert Stanley. He's been on my get. He's been a guest on your show too, right, Robert?
yes, he has.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and he talks about the archons, but he talks about I call it the brain virus. He calls it the mental parasite, but it's the same thing. These people are
Mm-hmm.
infected, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
get this message across. They're infected. Okay, that's all there is to it. They're sick. They're sick.
Uh-huh. Uh,
I don't know if they can be healed. I don't know how that works with these people, but I will know that we have to take responsibility for our own actions here and raise the bar to the highest level we can while we're here. And I don't care who attacks us. And that's the thing, Miesha. We enter onto this planet with a lot of bright, shining energies coming from a very vast universe. We bring all our gifts with us, and somehow along the way, some people are threatened by that, whether it's national security or whoever. And they start running these projects and these programs and indoctrinating people into these programs. And I'm telling you, we just rise above it. We've just smashed half of their programs down just by talking about it, just by putting it out there like you did in your book.
mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing that you're, doing this work.
It is. It is, and I agree 100%. Talking about it, talking is very, very good. It it will smash a lot of programs. I'd venture to say that if I don't know who's listening here or all that, but if you're some of the perps that are listening, I hope it takes a lot of the fun out of it for you because a sick person is the only person that could possibly think that torturing people is fun.
So yeah, sociopaths. Well, they're so ingrained.
Sociopaths.
I
That's
believe
right.
they're entity controlled, and I don't think there's a soul or
Yeah.
spirit or there. I don't think there's anything connected to what we call source there at all. They're completely taken over by entity control,
Mhm.
and that's what I
Mhm.
see. And they want everybody down with them in that miserable little orbit of nothingness, emptiness. Without love, without compassion, without heart chakra, without consciousness, without the highest form of what we call creator, source, God, whatever you want to call it. That's really what they are. And it's I've watched people smirk and laugh about what happened to me. I saw the sickness in their face, when I met with them in person.
Uh-huh.
It was sickening, Miesha. You never really saw the people that did what I don't know if you really did or not. Your initial handlers or people. Did you ever meet with
Uh,
them?
my my handlers are all anonymous. I
Okay.
can't remember.
The
Nope.
the weirdest part is to be able to see who the people were who perpetrated the assault, and sit
Oh
there and
yeah.
look them in the eye and watch them lie, and watch them laugh, and watch them smirk, and watch them snicker, and then have a website and sit there and do damage control because they have a lot of money to cover up their crime syndicate. I get really tired of this, and
Mhm.
um, and I'm only one. Like I said, there's plenty out there who've been screwed over or have been completely disrespected on that level. But you're right; they get really interested in harassing people, and they really dig it. They really
Mhm.
enjoy hurting people. And they're
Mhm.
also voyeurs, by the way. Oh,
Uh-huh.
they love to go track you down with their their covert surveillance with you. You're in the shower here, there. Oh man, they want to be in on that. They're sick.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They are. Yeah.
And I know
Yeah,
you
they are. Yeah.
SOBs are out there. Trust me. I know they're out there. Probably even listening to us, Misha. They're weird. So, and they're
Yeah.
not just men. Oh, by the way,
No.
a lot of
No, they're
nasty,
not.
nasty. I call them bitches. They're out there too.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's really sad. I saw plants in the area when I was pulled in. I remember everything, and I took notes and I took names. So,
You people really ought to listen to you more, and they can see firsthand how it it you saw them, you saw their
I
faces, you
saw them. I
saw
looked
their
them right. I
smith,
looked
you
Michael in
looked
the
them in the
eyes.
eye, and yet they got away with it,
Yeah.
and
And that's
it's
because they
just
can.
so wrong
That's
because they
because they can.
can,
And
right?
because high profile entertainment industry seems to be running the world, or at least running California. And of course, that's where the perpetrators came from initially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really things are changing with our new president. And like I said before, I really run the light and the energy and the vision to get this stuff negated and get these people either arrested or prosecuted at the highest level. All of them. I'm talking every one of these people that are out there doing these insidious crimes. Misha, the groups that come to see you, the people that are targeted, or the people that have gone through mind control. There are so many perpetrators out there that make their lives miserable. I've heard that they get up to $100,000 a year to keep this perpetual harassment up.
Oh yes, they're paid very highly.
I mean, this is the game.
Everything from the gang stalkers to the perks themselves. Uh, They
Yeah,
they
it's
don't have to
disgusting.
worry about anything, and they torture these people to the degrees. These people can't even have a job anymore.
No,
They can't have a
they
life.
give up.
Some of them give up and live on the streets and
And
run from country to country to state or state to state, country to country, and it's just
disgusting.
so
And these are
sad,
people
so
that are
wrong.
intelligent and have a lot to offer. That's the saddest part too. And I will say one thing, and I heard, I believe, I really want to see this happen. NSA can go straight to hell. I think they
Hmm.
need to get rid of NSA completely. Sorry, I don't know what they're
Yes.
protecting. I know they do a lot of surveillance on a global scale, but I also know they're insidious with psychotronic warfare and covert technology and everything else
Right.
with covert harassment and black satellites. So once
Right.
again, I think President Trump should take a really good look at those SOBs and start really understanding that they're doing things that are way beyond just regular surveillance. Their data mining goes way beyond that because when they start using what they call the old voice to skull has morphed into synthetic telepathy.
Yes.
There's much more advanced technology now that targets individuals globally, where they're forced to hear and listen to and interact, or even be heterodyne with technology that's bitching at them 24 hours a day, or trying to program them or
Hmm.
sci-fi them. And I'm telling you, it's a disgusting project. They've never used it with enlightenment. They've never used it with wisdom. They have to be held accountable for it. It has to stop. And also, the UN, I think, has a big part in it as well.
Yes,
Because you're dealing with
it
people
is.
from Germany. I know you have a lot of people outside the United States
Hmm.
that have
Oh
been.
yeah, that they're having the same kinds of things happen to them. Different, but does the same type of thing. For people who don't maybe think that this is real, remember when the uh, was it Saddam Hussein and it was Desert Star, okay? And so all of a sudden, all of these people came out of their. They were like the guard, the royal guard or something, his royal guard, and they all came out of their holes and surrendered. And in
Hmm.
fact, some of them stood in front of tanks to be ran over.
Hmm.
How come? Because they had the psychotronic on them, voice to skull. In that, I was probably advanced to
They were hit with
psychotronic. Was
microwaves. I believe it
the
was one of those.
microwaves? Yeah.
I believe it was one of those Humvees that was running around with a dish. But yeah, I knew
Hmm.
somebody who worked out there who did that, by the way, and I they used to brag about it, and I
Oh,
got very
yeah.
angry when I heard about that. Because you
Yeah.
shouldn't be bragging about stuff. I understand war. Don't get me wrong. I understand battlefields, but I also understand how this is insidious. And a lot of people get bored when they come back to the United States and they have access to technology like that. Oh, maybe they don't like their neighbor, or maybe they just don't like this one person. And hey, let's go screw with this person. So that's where it gets out of control and it's sold on the black market. And it's not
Hmm.
just your neighbor with a microwave turned your way. I'm sorry. I mean, there's bigger stuff going out there. There's a question here from Zippy 2400. What is a handler?
Okay. A handler is somebody who has been sent in to keep you under control. In my case, they always took me. With my handler was I was married to, right? Okay, so he always got me where I was supposed to be. He took me where I was supposed to be. He kept me programmed. He kept me either drugged or hypnotized, which are both. He would be the person that would give the original probably the orders and such. They're part of. They're just kept there to keep you in line.
Mm-hmm.
They're your handler, and your handler can be anybody from a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, a friend. Um, uh, did I say mother, father? Yeah, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anybody, and it can be used. And a person doesn't even have to be a real handler to be used. Um, I wish I could remember that darn show, but there's an old movie um, that shows how in this movie this and they were CIA and they showed it in the movie that they would actually be able to cause people that passerbys to say things out of their mouth to somebody that were ugly and mean, and they didn't even know they were saying them.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't
Hijack.
have to be a full-fledged handler to be a handler. You can be used because they hijack. What
Yeah.
is it? What is it? They
Well, they
hijack?
hijack the neural circuitry. It's a brain hack. It's a remote brain hack. Is what they're using. They're using a signal to do it, though. Yeah, absolutely. Because once they start doing the neural linguistics and they start hijacking, that's why when you have a hard time speaking, if they're interfering with you, if they try to run interference, say I'm on live on air and I'm trying to speak, normally I don't have a problem. Once in a while, if I get hit with a signal because I have signal anomalies, then they can try and create a neural linguistics where they're trying to either cause a stroke, a seizure, or try to stop me from speaking. And that's when you get the overlay of weird dialogue that doesn't make sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
it's not a neurological issue. It's somebody trying to create one and simulate one through technology. And this is what I mean by real bad war crimes, folks. So yeah, but you make a lot of sense there. And also they do a lot of damage control. The
They
handlers are
do.
always there to make sure that everything gets taken care of. And yeah.
Yep, you're exactly where you're supposed to be,
Hmm.
and it can it can go on for years and years and years, and you have no idea that you're being handled. They're also somebody who keeps you down. The handlers, I think, you have to be narcissistic.
Yeah.
I just really do. The handlers I've seen in my past in my life, and most of them have been my relationship. So guess what? I'm not in a relationship. I'm not really interested in getting a relationship because that's their way in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Well,
And
they seem to not like people in relationships. I know that's what they wanted to zero out my relationships. I was happily married, and they didn't want me married. They wanted me pulled away, divorced, away from him, so they could program me. They got
hmm
exactly what they wanted when they traumatized me out of my house. So it wasn't like I left on my own free will, by my own free will. I was harassed and traumatized out of my home. So and Mossbach was completely hijacking that. So
hmm
yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty weird. And it's all for them, to what they want to do with these projects, and then they'll sit there and pretend that they're delusional. Oh, they're saying it's mind control. Really? Yeah. Well, why don't you look it up? And of course you're the perpetrator. It's like I always say this is like the arsonist. He wants to light the house on fire. He lights it on fire, and then he comes back and checks his handiwork. That's how they are. They'll always
That's
come
what
back
they
and
are.
check their handiwork. It may
Mhm.
not be the first year, 2 years. Oh, they'll always come back, check and see what's going on. See how much damage they can really create in somebody's life, how much misery they can create. They're filth. I'm sorry, you guys. I'd like to say something nice about these people, but since I've had a taste of these programs, they're real nasty. They're no good.
Mhm.
And if they hit a
No.
child, Miesha, like we were talking about, if they hit a kid, I mean, we're adult women. We're pretty powerful. I don't know what would happen to kids getting pulled into these programs. It's very concerning. And when you talk about the Pizzagate, that's
Uh-huh.
that's just that's just shattering their astral body, putting them
Absolutely.
into altars through sexual abuse and everything else, and
Mhm.
trauma. And God only knows how many altars they get. And once they get the altars out, guess what, folks? That's when the covert intel shows up to program these kids, and then
That's
they grow
right.
up to be monsters. Okay,
That's right.
it's
Yep.
true.
Mhm.
It's just terrible. But we're making a difference by addressing it. But people who think it's mythology or something like that, or everybody's mentally ill, they like to use that word an awful lot. Mental illness,
Uh-huh.
mentally intruded upon, not
Mhm.
mentally ill. So yeah, it's very. What do you think in your book, insofar as what do you want the reader to be left with after they read your book? What is the biggest thing you're trying to get across to your readers?
I want people to see that this type of thing really does happen, and mostly I want, I want to. I'm going to just read you my dedication. I dedicate this book to all the women and men who are suffering in silence, isolated and in fear of what's happening to them, feeling like they could be losing their minds because of the memories that are surfacing for them. I too felt like this and couldn't really have happened to me until I delved more into everything and what had happened to me. I hope that some information that you find in this book will encourage you to share your experience in a safe, supported group, or maybe even inspire you to write your own book. So that's what I want. I want people to just come out and talk about this, that it's real. It's not just a few of us that are out here bitching about it. It is real. And there's so many, many people that suffer in silence, and the people that are being, tortured and targeted and mind controlled, and,
Hmm.
people can't remember their childhood and their life. I want them to be able to say, you know, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. Well, that makes some information, and at the back I also have a list of symptoms of this type of thing that kind of
Excellent.
will help people as well. And I just want people to start talking about it. It's got to come. It's got to be out of the closet.
Hmm.
It's a
Right.
real
And,
thing.
and
Just
people
like
can't be called.
UFOs and
Right.
stuff is now out of the closet. This has to come out of the
Hmm.
closet.
Exactly. And they can't be called crazy anymore or
No,
delusional or this or that. We're dealing with a
schizophrenic.
legitimate technology and assault program that's really really screwing with people's brainwave activity and putting them in PTSD and everything else. They don't even have to be in the military to be
Oh,
traumatized. I mean, military goes through
absolutely.
their own trauma, but we're talking about people who have been traumatized almost worse than the military, if you can imagine. They didn't watch people get blown up. They saw it with psychotronics. They were interconnected with projects, and I know from my own personal experience. I saw stuff with virtual space. I saw people coming in with weapons and shooting people up, and then I'd get the impact in my head in virtual space. These guys were
Right.
nasty. Um,
Right.
I mean,
That's interesting that you should say that. I did not know that, but
yeah.
because because that's what they were practicing on with us back in my day. Is I had this helmet that, well, it would like show me all these imagery of this horrible stuff and murdering and killing and stuff like that until I was desensitized.
Hmm.
I felt that that's what they were doing, is trying to desensitize me to it.
Exactly. Calibrate you. Yeah.
But they were probably calibrating their instruments to get it right so that they could use it like did with you and so many other people
Well,
now.
they definitely used me for sci-spy. I mean, that I was wired for sci-spy. There's no doubt about it. I would be an excellent sci-spy. But I'm also not one to put up with abusers and creeps and people who misuse technology. So that where do I have? I don't have a home. I'm like the black sheep. So that's how that worked for me. But I will say it reminds me of Seven of Nine in Star Trek Voyager. I mean, I know that was the kind of the Borg thing, but it is kind of like that. They
Hmm.
have all these weird anomalous memories that you don't know if they're screen memories. You don't know if it's you. You don't know what's you anymore because they do so much scrambling that you have to decode yourself again.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just amazing. So we're almost out of time here, Misha. Is there anything you want to add to the show? I just want to thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to have you back soon. You're wonderful to have on the show, and you're wise, and your information is very beneficial to those who are listening. So, and once again, if people want to contact you, what's the best way to do that?
They can go to my website, starseedawakening.org, and if they go to the website and they go to my you can talk my virtual groups. I have that. You can just link into the virtual groups. So from there, you can go to the groups and join the individual groups. I have the Starseed Awakening ET Contactee group, and then I have just a Starseed Awakening for the people who are just waking up. Maybe they don't want to think about the ET stuff yet, and they're just waking up. And then, of course, the MK Ultra, MILAB, and DID group, and
It's a
but they
wonderful
can
group,
find
by the
that
way,
all
and
that.
you do a fabulous job with that.
Well, thank you, and I have a fabulous co-host.
Yeah, I help you out when I can. I try to do my best, and I have to
Yes, you
say,
do.
what you do is a big, big service to people. You don't realize it, but it's huge.
Well, you know what? I guess I'm really starting to realize that enough people have been pounding me with that, telling me this, that I guess, yes, it is. It's just a mission that I felt that I had to do, and that it's so very, it's the most important thing for me right now to do that. However, I do have another thing that I'm working on, and I always like to tell people about this. This is the school. It's Thrive at My Education. We're working on it here in Las Vegas. Hopefully that it can be anything from a school here to an on school,
Excellent.
on the air school. So yeah, so they can look up that as well.
Perfect. Well, we're out of time, Miesha. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for the questions in chat. Stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dundre and Mickey coming up next to sell you on tonight from Down Under with their excellent show, as they always do. Everybody have a safe week, and thank you again for tuning in. Thanks again, Miesha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.